Coming up, we are going to air the entire Ben Johnson press conference from Indianapolis as he spoke to the media at the NFL Combine. We've got boots on the ground for Chat Sports, so we'll carry that full presser. But I've got my three big takeaways from what the new Bears head coach had to say, including some clips from this press conference. So we'll do that first before you guys can just listen to the entire presser here in a few minutes. Number one, he is confident that the Bears' offensive line can be rebuilt and that it can be rebuilt this offseason, and even pointed out an intriguing example when asked about, hey, you got three new starters potentially you need on the interior offensive line. Take a listen to what Ben had to say.
Yeah, I think it's been done before, right? I mean, I think there's a number of teams that did that last year. The Panthers come to mind when they went out in free agency and got a couple top guards and really changed the dynamic of their offense, and you saw them clicking there in the second half of the season once they started to really gel. So there's no question that you can change the dynamic of a room just like that. That particular room, it does take a little bit of time for five guys to come together, especially if you have to deal with the attrition and the injuries, for five guys to be working on the same page. It's when you watch the tape and you come away with, I think I made this statement in my opening press conference that that's an area we have to get better. That doesn't necessarily mean we need five new starters, because all it takes is one individual to blow up a play. And so we're just identifying where we can get a little bit better, and we're going to continue to raise that floor, and we'll find the right mix of 5 to 8, 9, 10 guys.
Interesting that he brought up Carolina, who the Bears, of course, have been tied to, given that trade a couple of years ago. Remember, they gave Robert Hunt $100 million. They paid Damian Lewis as well, spent big on both those guard spots. And say what you want about where the Panthers are right now and this, that, or the other. I think the Bears are more talented. But Bryce Young looked a lot more comfortable after coming back from being benched last year, and they ran the ball really well with Chua Hubbard. That offensive line was honestly pretty solid. So I think it's a great example to point to, like a team that was in shambles, makes a couple of key signings up front. And, yeah, Carolina as a whole isn't great right now, but their O-line was much improved. The Bears have the cap space. They have the draft capital to do this offseason. Now, is anyone sitting here saying that this unit that they currently have is going to turn into the current Philadelphia Eagles offensive line? No, but can you go from, I don't know, the 27th best unit in the NFL to the 13th? Yeah, I think that's very much on the table if you pick and choose the right guys and if they gel together, which is something important he mentioned as well. It takes time for all five of these guys to get on the same page, but I think they can elevate the room just from a talent standpoint alone on that interior. And like Ryan Poles said earlier, left tackle will probably have some competition. So other than Darnell Wright, keep an eye on a lot of new additions here and new faces on this offensive line. Okay, number two, he had some interesting words when it came to the strategy of building this coaching staff, specifically the offensive side of the ball. And it's interesting. I'll give him my take after he talks.
Listen, what's so beautiful about the coaching staff that we put together is I didn't hire a bunch of my friends. I went outside of my circle on purpose because I wanted to collect a different mix of experience, of energy, ideas, and we're all going to make it come together, and it's going to be the Chicago Bears going forward. And so it can look a number of different ways. Eric Bieniemy's got a lot of experience in the gun run game and what they did in Kansas City, obviously, and Declan has a lot of success from the Sean Payton tree, and Press Taylor has a lot of success from the Chip Kelly all the way on. And so we've got a lot of library, if you will, to draw from, and we'll see it all come together once we get our hands on these guys.
I think this will be pretty fascinating. You know, you bring in a lot of guys with a lot of experience. Eric Bieniemy, Press Taylor, obviously Declan Doyle is a young guy. Stay tuned for the end of Johnson's presser. He had a really interesting thing about, detailing how he ended up hiring him. But for the most part, I like this. I like bringing in different guys with different experiences. I like the part where it's like, hey, I could have just hired my buddies. I didn't do that. I wanted guys with different ideas, different backgrounds. He not only pointed to Eric Bieniemy, but yeah, he came from the shotgun run game with Kansas City. Also, Press Taylor initially being under a Chip Kelly offense, who obviously has had some success as an offensive play caller. I do think, though, that there has to be a clear, cohesive vision. I think you can bring all these ideas together, but what you don't want is for it to be too wide-ranging, where it's like, okay, what is our identity? And I trust Ben Johnson to be the top strong voice in that. Like, hey, we're going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm going to put it all together in terms of these guys working together. But you don't – it's the old phrase of the too many cooks in the kitchen. I do think that is a thing sometimes. But I do trust that Ben will be able to kind of, pick and choose, what he's adding to this offense from the different ideas here. But as long as he is the main architect, I'm cool with it. But what you don't want is in week 12, you're like, what is this offense? Like, what is the identity? I think he's a smart enough guy where that won't be an issue, but it is something I wanted to mention. And then lastly, of course, he was asked about the quarterback, what he loves about Caleb Williams. He kind of echoed something Declan Doyle said when he got introduced to the media. Here's the new head coach on the Bears' second-year quarterback.
Listen, super talented. I think Declan mentioned it when he got interviewed a few weeks ago. The out of structure, the off schedule, the creation, that's what stands out the most, because that's really the way that this league's going right now, it seems like. As much as you want to make it pure progression, 1 to 2 to 3, there's just too much variety. The pass rush is coming down, and to have an athlete like Caleb extend the play and potentially find an explosive down the field, that's what gets me going a little bit. I get excited thinking about that because I haven't really been around that since I've been in the league. But I've been on the other side, and I've experienced it, and it's demoralizing when you're on the other side and you're watching that happen to your defense.
Yeah, I just get fired up about the potential marriage, the marriage is there, but the potential of the marriage between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, because Johnson said himself, hey, I have not had a quarterback like this that can create out of structure and make big-time plays. And, to me, it's kind of these guys meeting in the middle. You don't want to eliminate Caleb Williams' big play ability out of the pocket, out of structure, creating when the initial play isn't there, even when the easy play is there, occasionally picking and choosing when it's time to chase a bigger play. But there's that balance of, hey, throwing on time, on schedule, within the flow of the offense. You got to understand that as a coach and player combination, things you're willing to live with. And I think with Caleb Williams, especially as he's still a young player, you're going to have to live with sometimes him not always playing in structure. But ideally, he plays more so in structure than he did last year. How do you do that? Well, you improve the offensive line. But 2, you find concepts that he likes, and you marry those into your offense that he's comfortable standing in there and just delivering the football while also encouraging him to be the playmaker. What Ben Johnson did with Jared Goff, maximizing him as a pocket passer, which was his game, by giving him concepts that really work. If he can do that with Caleb within the pocket, but also this offense generates 4, 5, 6 plays a game where Caleb's freelancing and making big plays, there is no limit to what he could be as a player and what this offense could be. So I'm excited about it. It's a process. It's going to get time. There's no guarantees, obviously, but I feel pretty confident that if these two guys put in the work that's necessary along with the rest of the players and staff, that this offense could be special. I really do think that's a possibility. All right, we told you at the beginning we got the full press conference, and he said a lot more. Those are just a few things that stood out to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Bears Combine coverage all week long. More clips to follow. Hit that sub button, turn on notifications. Ben Johnson, full presser, coming up next.
Wanted to go ahead and start off by expressing my condolences to the McCaskey family. Only being there for 5 weeks and Miss Virginia passing like she did. You talk about a powerful experience for your young coach like myself, just to see the level of support, respect, love come from the community and her family was overwhelming. So want to start off with that. Listen, the last 5 weeks have gone outstanding. Putting the staff together, that was priority number one. Feel really strongly about the quality of people that we brought in. Character, integrity, those were the first things we were looking for. And then great teachers, great work ethic, demanding on and off the field. I think we checked those boxes with all the coaches that we brought on board. And then as we've gotten going with the roster, evals of our current guys, the free agents coming up, as well as getting into the draft prospects here. It's been a great process. I can't speak highly enough about Ryan Poles and his staff. I've been able to sit in some of their draft evals so far, and to see how well that machine's clicking, it's just rolling on along. It's very impressive to see, and so looking forward to seeing that grow as we go through the springtime.
You only get one opportunity to make that, set the precedent for Ryan for how demanding you're going to be doing player acquisition. What you told him you got to have coming out of the draft and free agency?
Well, we as a coaching staff, we sat down with the entire personnel department, and we went through position by position what the ideal athlete would look like for each spot. We're very flexible on both sides of the ball. Coach Allen, myself, Declan, Richard Hightower, big process. Everyone's going to be heard in terms of what we're looking for, and we very clearly outlined what the ideal look would be in terms of attributes, height, weight, speed, in terms of makeup, which is of critical importance for what we're looking for. But at the same time, if it's a good football player, we're going to make it work as a coaching staff. So there's a balance going on with that, and I think the dialogue's been very, very, very healthy so far.
Ben, how much of a change is it from the influence that you had in personnel decisions?
Listen, everywhere's different, and this process is a little bit different than what I've been a part of. It was different in Miami. It's different when I first got to Detroit. It was different when I left Detroit, and so whatever way you go with is your way. And I feel really good about the voice that not only I have, but the rest of the coaches are going to have in terms of picking these players.
Ben, Ryan talked about your vision of establishing a foundation for Caleb. What are the steps right out of the gates that you need to kind of iron out with him?
Well, the springtime, not just for Caleb, but for the entire team, is we're going to go back to the basics, and that's the fundamentals of each position: blocking, tackling, catching the football, running after the catch, ball security. We're going to break it down to the studs and work to develop it from there. And so for Caleb, it's what are the important things about playing the quarterback position at the NFL level? It's as simple as the procedure of the huddle, breaking the huddle, using cadence, motion, shifts, all those things that can help attack a defense that we feel like can take another step here in Chicago. That'll be the starting point, and we'll look to build around him as well with the talent level and the rest of the support staff.
When we talked to Dennis Allen,
An approach with using analytics, not just with personnel, but with game.
There is a very healthy respect from me to the analytic community. I think that probably comes from my background. I can't really help it, but I do have the computer science and math background, and so I do like to use that as a tool when making some decisions, not just in-game management, but also big picture view of how we want to build the roster and what we want to do offensively or defensively to attack the opposition.
when we talked to Dennis Allen a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the importance of adding to a pass rush. When you hear a player like Myles Garrett who might want out of Cleveland and he wants to trade and go somewhere else, what does that do for you, knowing that that's a position of need and that you're in a position now where you probably have more influence over being able to add a player of that caliber?
Yeah, listen, talking with DA has been very enlightening because we share the same mindset when it comes to defensive football, which is we want to affect the passer. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Certainly up front, the pass rush is the primary thing you think of, but also on the back end, it's challenging the receivers and disrupting the timing. And so when we look at guys that are available, absolutely, we want to upgrade the pass rush, and we also want on the back end to be able to come up and lock down receivers as well. So it's that fine balance and marriage between the rush and coverage that we're looking to augment.
With your offensive background, when you think of quarterback, you think of those defensive linemen. What are some of the things that you think, I don't want this defensive lineman on the other side of the line? These are the guys that I don't want to face as a quarterback. And are those kind of the guys you're looking for, and maybe more some of those traits are?
Yeah, but I understand where you're coming from with that. Yeah, we want playmakers all over the roster. Doesn't matter, offense, defense, D-line, secondary, we want them all over the place. And as an offensive guy, I look on at defensive players, and if it's an issue for me to game plan against, then absolutely, we'd love to have them on our roster as a defensive player to go after our opponents. But it's not always that easy, and it really, at the end of the day, it comes down to 11 guys doing their job. If you don't have that star power, that's okay. You can still be an effective unit. And so, we want as many playmakers and stars as we possibly can, but at the same time, we know that complementary football wins in this league. We know that 11 guys playing as one also wins in this league.
Now that you had the chance to look at Gilmore's team a little bit more in depth, what are the traits that excite you the most as you start to build the offense around him?
Listen, super talented. I think Declan mentioned it when he got interviewed a few weeks ago. The out of structure, the off schedule, the creation, that's what stands out the most, because that's really the way that this league's going right now, it seems like. As much as you want to make it pure progression, 1 to 2 to 3, there's just too much variety. The pass rush is coming down, and to have an athlete like Caleb extend the play and potentially find an explosive down the field, that's what gets me going a little bit. I get excited thinking about that. Because I haven't really been around that since I've been in the league. But I've been on the other side, and I've experienced it. And it's demoralizing when you're on the other side and you're watching that happen to your defense.
To that point, your offense was predicated on a lot of run game and play action. And the statistics don't necessarily show that you need to be a good run game and be a good play action team. I'm just curious about your philosophy in that regard.
Yeah, there is a marriage between the two, there's no doubt. But I would agree with what you just said. You don't necessarily have to be a great running team to get reaction in the play action game. I think it all starts with what your line up front can do, what your backs do well, and you take it from there. And listen, what's so beautiful about the coaching staff that we put together is I didn't hire a bunch of my friends. I went outside of my circle on purpose because I wanted to collect a different mix of experience, of energy, ideas, and we're all going to make it come together, and it's going to be the Chicago Bears going forward. And so it can look a number of different ways. Eric Bieniemy's got a lot of experience in the gun run game and what they did in Kansas City, obviously, and Declan has a lot of success from the Sean Payton tree, and Press Taylor has a lot of success from the Chip Kelly all the way on. And so we've got a lot of library, if you will, to draw from, and we'll see it all come together once we get our hands on these guys.
What did you see in DeAndre Swift's season, his first season with the Bears? And I know you have some history with him. What potential do you think there is for him to work?
Yeah, so I was with Swifty when we first drafted him in Detroit a number of years ago, and I followed his career even after he left Detroit, and think very highly of him. He's an explosive athlete. There's a number of things that he can do both in the running game and the passing game. I do think he can help ignite an offense because he's got that playmaking ability. So it'll be fun to start to work together again here this springtime with him.
You got a talented wide receiving group in Detroit, and you now have one in Chicago. How important was it to bring somebody like Antoine Randall over to Chicago? Just off of your history, how big of a role does he have?
Listen, L's a stud, and that's one of the reasons was not only will he help me out tremendously, but he's going to make this offense, he's going to make this team, he's going to make that receiver room better. He's going to leave it better than when he found it. I know that for certain, and it helps that he's coming home too. So I'm really excited about him being able to get in the building, be around these players, because he's got a special energy and aura about him that just rubs off on everybody.
Having looked at your roster and identified the greatest needs, what does this big coach further identify as to put these guys in and
Yeah, so I think Ryan talked about it this morning a little bit. We feel really good about free agency and the draft and how the supply matches up with our demand. And so it's we've been able to dive into the film over the last few weeks, but now we can verify the personality, the football intelligence, and all those types of things that you wouldn't normally have known just by watching the tape. So it's just the next step in the process right now, and we're just cooking on along. You want names? Is that what you're looking for?
No, I mean,
Is it?
whatever your vision is for the next
Listen, yeah.
And if you want to give names, go ahead.
we want a physical group, all right? It starts with that, and that's not just the offensive line, that's the entire team. DA and I have been talking about what that looks like on defense. It's going to look that way on offense. Starts in the trenches up front. We talk about finishing in a dominant position. We want to be around the football. The best football players, they finish around the ball. And so that's what you're going to see from our unit, the 5 guys that we roll into. And it's not even just going to be 5. Last few years, it ends up being 6, 7, 8, 9 guys end up playing significant number of snaps. So we've got to find those 5 best guys, but we also have to get a good bullpen, if you will, ready to go in at a moment's notice.
To that extent, you have all three interior starters are up for free agency. Is it realistic to think you can flip that many offensive linemen in one free agent draft period, or how do you envision that working?
Yeah, I think it's been done before, right? I mean, I think there's a number of teams that did that last year. The Panthers come to mind when they went out in free agency and got a couple top guards and really changed the dynamic of their offense, and you saw them clicking there in the second half of the season once they started to really gel. So there's no question that you can change the dynamic of a room just like that. That particular room, it does take a little bit of time for 5 guys to come together, especially if you have to deal with the attrition and the injuries, for 5 guys to be working on the same page. It's when you watch the tape and you come away with, I think I made this statement in my opening press conference that that's an area we have to get better. That doesn't necessarily mean we need 5 new starters, because all it takes is one individual to blow up a play. And so we're just identifying where we can get a little bit better, and we're going to continue to raise that floor, and we'll find the right mix of 5 to 8, 9, 10 guys.
Two more.
Have the plays better, but also clock management. Obviously, you saw that on Thanksgiving. So how are you working with the quarterback and your staff to make sure that the Bears don't have the same kind of clock management issues that they had?
Well, I'm not working with the quarterback right now, but I will be soon enough. So we already have a plan in place in terms of Harry Freed was already on staff. He's someone I've got a relationship with from going back to Miami. I think very highly of him, and I'm really looking forward to sitting down. We've already started this process. We call it the Breakfast Club. He and I go 30 minutes every day right now, and he's just I said, teach me like I'm a rookie quarterback from the start to the finish. And so we're about halfway through his program right now. And so once we get through that, we'll make a decision on where we want to go in terms of when the players get in and educating them on how we want to handle the situations that can pop up and potentially win or lose ball games for us.
Last one, Adam.
Declan, so great story about him. I ended up calling John Morton, who took the OC job at Detroit. He'd worked with Declan the last couple of years, and I asked him, I said, hey, how's Declan doing? Is he ready to be a coordinator? He said, Ben, listen, he's another Ben Johnson, which I think that's a good thing. I'm banking on that being a good thing. So, listen, I think he and I are a match made in heaven. He thinks very much like me. It's been awesome getting him into the building the last few weeks, and extremely detailed, extremely organized. The age does not matter. He is going to be respected by not only the players but also his fellow coaches as well. I can already see that coming into place with the coaching staff meetings that we're having right now. He's very well informed. It's just like anybody, if you can help make the people around you better, they're going to find value in you. And so that's what Declan's bringing to the table for us right now.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you.